Hello, this is Kate from dailytarotgirl.com, and this is my review of the Luminous Void Tarot by Laura Zuspan. So let's start with looking at the box. So the box for this deck is beautiful. It's really a high quality box, really sturdy and lovely. And here's what the cards look like. So as you can see, this is an oval shaped deck, which is really different. I don't know if there's any other decks shaped quite like this. So let's start with the little white book that comes with the deck. So the little white book is really just a few pages. It's really thin, but there's some really good info in here, and I read through the whole thing because it's really short. You can read through it quickly, and I love the way the author, the artist, has described what tarot is. She talks about each suit, and then there's some really short little meanings for each card, and it's good. It also has how to use the tarot and a spread. And I like the information in this book. It's top notch, it's short, it's sweet, it's all you need. Okay, so this is what the backs of the cards look like, which beautiful. Like, I love this. I love the shape of this deck, and I so love the edges. So the edges are gold, but they're not like shiny, glittery gold. They're like a sort of more understated, classy gold, which I really love. And the finish on the cards is very, very velvety. So it's definitely a matte finish. Cardstock is really good quality, like nice and thick cardstock, probably the best quality cardstock I've ever felt on a deck, and very, very velvety. This is actually the nicest quality deck that I maybe own. The whole deck just screams luxury and high quality. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through this deck slowly so you get a sense for how it looks. And of course my deck is totally out of order because I've shuffled it and I've done some readings with this deck recently. So the style of the art, as you can see, it's kind of like a watercolory sort of style. And what I like about the artwork is a lot of it is sort of open to interpretation. Really invites you to sit with the images and contemplate for a while. The one thing that I like, this one, the devil, there's like a little tongue on his crotch. It's cute. The one thing that really drew me to this deck was the shape of the cards, actually. I thought that was really neat. These cards really do invite exploration. One thing I found interesting, I like this one. This is Death. I like the rainbow here. One thing I found interesting with these cards is some of the images are different from, say, like a Rider-Waite deck. Like it kind of strays a little bit from the usual. Which is interesting. So I wouldn't say that this is necessarily like the ideal beginner deck for someone that really wants to learn tarot. I always recommend people start with like the Rider-Waite deck or something really similar. And this deck definitely is a bit different from the Rider-Waite deck. But what I love about these images is how they really get you to contemplate, and they really get you to kind of think outside the box, because normally when I'm reading with tarot, if I'm reading with kind of like a Rider-Waite type deck, I really get stuck in my own ideas of what each card means. And with these cards, because some of the images are quite different in a lot of ways, it really makes me stop and just kind of meditate on the image rather than just jumping to, what the traditional meaning is. Although one thing I find interesting about this deck, and maybe this is a bit of a criticism, I'm not sure, not really a criticism, just an observation, is that some of the cards, when I look at the image, the emotion I get or the feel I get with the image is very different from how I'm used to thinking of that card. And hopefully there'll be a card that will be a good example of this. So far I haven't found a card that, oh, this is nice. I like this one, the Four of Wands. I think the Star was a good example. I don't know where the Star was. I know I showed her already. But the Star for me is a card of like peacefulness and hope. And I found the Star in here actually was kind of like making me feel a little bit anxious when I looked at it. But I've noticed that with some of these cards, like I get a very different emotional feel when I look at the image than how I'm used to thinking of that card, which isn't a bad thing. It kind of helps you get outside the box a little bit with your readings. I like this one, The World. This one's really beautiful. I like how there's a lot of white space on these cards. That just feels nice. You know, this isn't a cluttered deck. I feel like there's a lot of wide open spaces, which is lovely. This is definitely a very unique deck, which is what really drew me to it. I love the bright rainbow colors. And I've done a few readings with this deck so far for myself. And the little white book has a spread that I'd never tried before. So I've been playing around with that spread, and so far this deck reads nicely. It's a different deck though, because it does kind of force you to slow down when you're reading. Like I'm sometimes used to just like laying out my cards and like doop, 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 this means that this means this. And this deck really forces me to slow down and sit with the card a minute and kind of contemplate it, as opposed to quickly, you know, making an assumption about what the card means. Five of Wands, yeah, that's a neat one. So I haven't used this deck for any professional readings. I kind of feel like I want to keep it for my personal readings, just because I feel like the experience of working with it is a little more meditative. And so for that reason, I feel like it's a good deck for doing like personal readings on myself. I love all the rainbows in these cards. They're so beautiful. So if you're interested in learning more about this deck or purchasing this deck, I'm going to put the links in the description box below this video. Ooh, this one's really pretty. Ah, the Hermit. I love this one. And this is so interesting, the Tower, because there's like this big eye on the top of it. I just can't get over how amazing these cards feel. It's like handling silk, actually. I think I previously said they feel like velvet, but actually they have like a really silky, smooth finish that feels really nice. See, this is a really interesting one here, the High Priestess. This is possibly the weirdest High Priestess card I've seen. But it invites you to really kind of contemplate and look at the image. So what I find intriguing about this deck is that on some levels, these images are almost kind of innocent feeling, like the bright rainbow colors, the simplicity of the images. There's sort of like a childlike innocence to them, but at the same time, there's some really interesting, like dark, not necessarily dark, but like sort of interesting themes that, you know, it really makes you stop and contemplate and sit with the images. Okay, I think we've come full circle. I think I'm repeating myself now. So here's the star card. So, the name of this deck is the Luminous Void Tarot. Again, I'll show you the backs. So pretty. I love the backs and the gold edges. And the box looks like this. It's called the Luminous Void Tarot by Laura Zuspan. And again, I'll put the links to find out more about this deck in the description box below this video. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Kate, and you can find more deck reviews on my website, dailytarotworld.com.